It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. That's a quote you may have heard before from Theodore Roosevelt, and I want it to have a new meaning for you, because today we're going to be talking about a playbook for success in your life. I'm not a real philosophical kind of guy. I'm an action-oriented kind of guy, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to get the most success you can possibly get from wherever you're starting in your life. And if you listen, if you pay attention, I promise you, today will be life-changing. I was reading to you from Theodore Roosevelt, and the center of that, the guts of that, was the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly. Now, he goes on to say it doesn't belong to the critic. Anybody can sit in the cheap seats and take your inventory and criticize you. And I promise there are people in your life who do that. Maybe it's your mother-in-law, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your sister, your wife, your husband. There's probably somebody in your life who's really happy to sit back and take your inventory and tell you how you do things wrong in your life. Those are the people that you need to put on the outbound train to somewhere way away from where you are, because they don't help. What I want to talk to you about today is what you can do to maximize your position in life. And I don't care whether you're 18, 20, 48, 50, 70, it makes no difference to me. If you're in the game, you want to do as well as you can do. And here's what I want you to know. Right now, you have a playbook. Everybody has a playbook. The NFL, everybody's walking around learning their playbook for the season. They've all got plays. The offense has plays. The defense has plays. They've got a playbook. They're told to hold on to that playbook, and if they lose that playbook, it's their ass, believe you me. Playbooks are important, and you've got one. Whether you realize it or not, you have a playbook. You have a way of being in this world. You have an attitude of approach. You have standards, what you're willing to accept from yourself, what you're not willing to accept from yourself. But you have a playbook, and you run it every day. You get up and you run your plays. You've got certain plays you run. It might be how you approach your job. It might be how you approach your relationships. It might be how you approach your feelings about yourself. It might be how you approach your goals, but you have a playbook. But I'll bet if I said, okay, get out a pen, get out a pad, hit pause on this podcast, and start writing down your plays, I bet it wouldn't be long before you hit play again, because we don't ever think about that. And I'm going to tell you why. There is a real hole in our system. We go to school and they teach us how to read and write and add and subtract. They teach us about geology and biology. They teach us all kinds of subject matters, but they don't teach us how to live. They don't teach you how to deal with stress. They don't teach you how to deal with depression if it comes. They don't teach you how to handle it when you lose a loved one, somebody you care about dies. They don't teach you how to negotiate. They don't teach you how to interview. They don't teach you how to get what you want. I went to public schools all the way through, but they never taught me about goal setting. They never taught me any of that. So then we go out there in the world and, okay, maybe we learned how to do algebra or geometry, but nobody told us how to manage our lives. They didn't teach us any of those things. That's why I think there's a big void, and that's why living by design number 5 is so critical. And if you haven't listened to the first 4, I suggest you do. You don't need to necessarily listen to them before you listen to number 5, but this one is designed to give you a playbook. You'd say, well, wait a minute, you just told me I had a playbook. Yeah, I did, but you don't know what it is. And I want you to have a playbook that you learn and that you are familiar with. Now, what if by us having these conversations, you can learn some strategies, you can learn some behaviors, you can learn some steps that substantially change your life? What if by listening to these conversations that we're having here, you can pick up 1 or 2 things every time you listen to this that change the way you interact with the world, and it impacts your station in life? It causes you to have more money. It causes you to have more happiness. It causes you to have more peace. It causes you to have a closer walk with God. It causes you to have whatever it is that you value in this life. Would you not want that? For God's sakes, it's free. I'm sitting here telling you, you can have a better life, however you define better life, if you will just be who you are and reach for what you want and do it on purpose. What if there are things that you can learn that change the outcome of your life? Now think about it. The rest of this year is going to go by whether you're doing something about improving your life or whether you're not. September's going to slide by. October's going to slide by. You're going to be getting Halloween candy. Then it's going to be Thanksgiving. Then it's going to be time for Christmas. Then you're going to be sitting there making these idiotic New Year's resolutions like we do every year. That time's going to go by whether you're doing something about your life or whether you're not. I'm just saying, let's do something about it. Don't let this year slide by like all the rest of them. Let's use these months so you gain momentum, knowledge, know-how. So when you make New Year's resolutions this January, they're real. Here's the first thing I want you to know. I wrote a book back in 1998. I've talked about this in one of the Living by Designs before, but I wrote a book that had the 10 laws of life in it. Life law number 1 was you either get it or you don't. One of the earlier chapters, I talked about how I came about that life. You can listen to that if you want to, but think about what I just said. You either get it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. So you should be asking yourself, well, what's it? What's the it you want me to get? Well, the it's different for everybody. We'll talk about that as we go along, but let's just use a generic it right now. Don't you know people that are just out to lunch? I mean, whatever it is you're doing, they just don't get it. I mean, maybe you're going on a retreat at your job, and there's one person that's just always kind of out of sync. They just don't get it. Whatever it is you're doing, maybe it's team building or something, they just don't get it. Maybe you're going to have people over for dinner, and there's one guy that's just kind of standing over by himself. He just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get that this is just a time to socialize. Maybe you've got somebody there from work and they just want to talk about work all the time. They don't get that, wait a minute, this is not work time. Or you've got people that are at work and all they want to do is talk about the weekend or football. They don't get that, no, this is work time. There are people that just don't get it. And it doesn't have to do with intelligence. It has to do with tuning in and reading the room, reading your life, figuring out what's going on with you and what you want. Looking around and asking yourself, is everybody in my life passing me by? Did I think I was going to be way further along at this point in my life than I am? If the answer to that is yes, what is it I'm not getting? What is it I'm kidding myself about?